Hi, this is Greg Tainer for the Radiant Vista Daily Critique. This image was submitted by Zishaan, who's a beginning photographer from India. Let's talk about the metadata first on this one because it's interesting technically with the motion of the birds and also the idea of depth of field in this image. Zishaan shot this with a Nikon D70. The effective focal length is 28 millimeters, and Zishaan exposed the file at f3.5 at a 500. So it's interesting that without the idea of any Photoshop retouching where we put some kind of a motion blur on some of these birds that we're seeing in here, a 500th of a second with the birds being about this far away and this wide angle of a lens, we're getting some really beautiful subtle blurring on the wings of the birds that are taking off and they're in mid-wing beat. And to me this just adds so much to this image in terms of the feeling of immediacy and documentary and the idea of time. So a great shutter speed to think about relative to motion. Motion that we imply is going to be dependent on a lot of things, and if we're hand holding the camera still or have the camera on the tripod and we're getting motion by things moving, then how fast this thing is moving is obviously going to be one of those variables. And so it's just interesting to see here that even a really fast shutter speed like this is not totally freezing the wings of the birds, and to me that's one of the more powerful things about the image. F3.5 is interesting here too because almost everything looks sharp, and there may be some people that are wondering why it does, and it's a combination of the wide angle lens and the fact that there's really not anything very close to the camera. To me this looks like Zishaan is shooting out into the street, and maybe the closest birds are 7, 8, 9, 10 feet away, and on a wide angle lens if you're focused to 10 feet away or so from the camera you're really focused to infinity. So to me everything being sharp here has a lot to do with nothing is really close to Zishaan in the scene. The moment is just so powerful here, and it's creating a real powerful design of the anchor of the little boy and a circle of moving whirling pigeons all the way around the little boy. And the other thing that's beautiful in addition to moment and this design of sort of the center of the spoke of a wheel is color. There are a lot of really beautiful color relationships in this image. I love the way that the pigeons are representing a lot of cool tones. You've got a lot of gunmetal blue, cyan, you've got teal, this blue-green, and here, and the red and the blue play off of each other really beautifully. The green and the gold and the building play really beautifully. You've got a color harmony with the ground and the building. And the little boy with the black clothes playing off of the pigeons, the blue slipper, a red line here at the bottom of the shirt, and then the skin tone playing off of the building. Pretty amazing in terms of just the way color is playing in the image. When I start to think about perfect world improvement for this image, one of the first things I think about is design. And for me, when you suggest the idea of one anchoring subject and then something very symmetrical that moves with it, you set up to the viewer the feeling of symmetry. And then if you start to have areas where you don't have that kind of real graphic balance, they can become a distraction. And for me that happens in here where the birds run out and then all of a sudden you get the rough road. It also happens up here. The buildings are split 50-50. You got two diagonals that play off of each other, and then all of a sudden you have this merger and real heavy line. All of this also lines up with the boy, and it really starts to stop my circular movement on the pigeons like this. The top part could just be cropped. So if we come in and we crop from the top, to me getting rid of that heavy real slight V at the top of the image helps to simplify the design of the image. Now it's just these two diagonals that can play off of each other in a symmetrical way. From here, to me, this sort of could turn into a Photoshop retoucher's dream because you've got so many pigeons and so many different forms, variations, movement, direction they're pointed, that it would be pretty easy if you were good at compositing to duplicate pigeons and fill in the gap here without it looking like there had been any duplication. And you also could create a little bit of separation. I mean, another perfect world thing for me in this image would be a simpler background for the boy. If this opening in the circle continued in the background of the bank back here, to me it would really help to simplify things. As much as I love the moment in the design, this mergers The mergers up in here are a little bit of a distraction, and then if I was going to do all that, I would look at a variation where you just move the boy over and just went ahead and centered him. These buildings in the background are so centered, and for me the feeling of two arcs right here coming into the middle is just so powerful, the way that lines right up with a 50-50 split on the building, and having the boy right in the middle to me would just help to complete this feeling of real graphic design. And having said all that, it's an incredible moment. It'd be really interesting to hear from Zishaan and see if this is a grab shot, or Zishaan knows the child and this is a location where it's predictable. The pigeons are there, and anybody with food is going to have all these pigeons around them. Then you could look at doing some of these things, and it would just be a matter of tenacity, going back, shooting tons and tons of pictures, which is free to do if it's digital, with some different moments in mind. Really incredible moment, beautiful color. We want to thank Zishaan for submitting this image to the Radiant Vista Daily Critique.